People have been talking about Halo Infinite's progression system as of late. There is a widespread skepticism towards the progression system as it stands. Is it really as bad as people say? In short, there is no per match XP. Battle Pass progression is tied solely to XP earned from completing challenges. You see, in previous games such as Halo Reach, the game would reward you simply for playing. You'd get an RNG lump sum payment of credits straight into your account, which also went to your leveling up. You also had challenges in addition to get bonus XP, allowing you to level up quicker. Challenges existed to give a bonus incentive to players to help them level up quicker. They push you to play the game in new ways you otherwise may not have thought of. This whole progression system is referred to as player investment. In Halo Infinite, you are not guaranteed to receive XP for completing a match, although it is apparently very hard to run out of daily challenges. Now, the whole armor and unlock systems, when viewed from the player's point of view, is simply there to reward you for your achievements, to tie your in-game appearance to your in-game accomplishments. But there is a business case for player cosmetics and customization as well. It's in the name, player investment. It's about longevity, keeping players for as long as possible, and also, nowadays, spending money. Basically, to convince players that they have equity in the game, to increase psychological attachment. Some studies refer to these as virtual assets. There's millions of dollars going into researching player psychology every year. So why do people take issue with Halo Infinite's system? Assuming Unisec wasn't lying about it being hard to run out of challenges, it's because challenges are meant to be a nudge, a minor incentive to push people towards playing a certain way they otherwise wouldn't have thought of or bothered with. You still get most of your XP by just playing the way you want to in Reach. In Halo Infinite, all XP earned is via challenges, meaning your progression is directly tied to the style of gameplay the developers want you to do. Ultimately, it's limiting. It's a reality in modern games that people don't just play because they enjoy the game. It's because they're invested and want to progress their character. Challenges exist to nudge you towards trying things you otherwise wouldn't have, such as a playlist. But here's the thing, let's say a given player hates a playlist. That's reasonable, everyone has different tastes. And let's say 343 wants to promote a certain playlist. They make a challenge that requires playing said playlist. Most people hop on to play to get the challenge done. But the dude who hates the playlist, either he A, plays anyway but has a terrible time playing, or B, continues with his regular playing habits but is locked out of progression for the duration of the challenge. The amount of challenges he has access to is limited. He can still have fun, but the progression system, which is something considerable time and resources go into, is useless to him. In this way, Halo Infinite's leveling reduces player choice and expression. Why did they build the system this way? It's a long story. Market research for Halo Reach lumps these players into three groups: campaigners, omnivores, and specialists. Campaigners only played Halo for the single player, the campaign. In this scenario, the majority of players who go into the playlist to complete the challenge are the omnivores, that being the players who play a bit of everything. The player who refuses to play the playlist in this scenario is a specialist, that being the players who only play one specific mode. There are many subgroups of specialists who make up a very small fraction of players, but all put together comprise a sizable amount of the population. For example, people who only play Infection for hours at a time. 343 is appealing to the omnivores, because they're the ideal players, they're the ones who play everything, and they're limiting the game's progression system for the specialists. Now, I've spoken about market research a few times before on this channel. Market research, player investment, and player customization are all intrinsically linked. Developers didn't just start using psychological tricks on players to get them to spend money recently. Halo has actually had a very long history of extensive market research. In Halo 1, the motivation for the player was simple: to complete the level or beat your friends. You could only really change your player's color. It worked for the time, but Bungie was ambitious. John Hobson was hired to work at Bungie in 2002 as head of user research. He was an expert in behavioral science. Bungie was looking for ways to get their players attached from very early on. They slowly expanded customization, more colors, choosing species, but it was Halo 3 that saw armor permutations. Now your appearance was tied to your achievements. This wasn't the first game to do this by any means, but it was still an important step. Your in-game character could directly represent your ego. But more was happening behind the scenes. Almost 2 years of testing and over 1,000 testers in their labs before Halo 3 came out. For the first time, these studies in these labs included multiplayer. This research was at least a part of why Halo 3 was such a phenomenon. They had the most advanced applications of market research. Everyone wanted Hayabusa, everyone wanted Recon, and they grinded to get them. People were even willing to put up with a paywall of a whole other full-priced game to get Recon. But it was fine, somehow. Why? Because the rewards were still tied to player achievement. The reward system was not compromised. The Horse Armor DLC was controversial in Oblivion for giving purely cosmetic horse armor for a price. But what if that horse armor was just a part of another expansion? What if it was a quest reward? I don't think it would have been anywhere near as controversial because your appearance reflects your achievement. This is why Halo fans are so in favor of armor unlocks that are tied to player performance and achievement. Another important milestone in the history of player incentive systems is Call of Duty. RPGs have had leveling systems for years, for the sake of pacing the game, but Call of Duty introduced RPG progression to shooters. Past this point, there was no going back. Call of Duty 4 was a masterclass in player investment. It wasn't remotely balanced or fair. Could you imagine how boring it would be if everyone started with the same guns like they do in Halo? This caused the explosion of player investment and psychology. Now, online games had to have a reward system like this to even exist in the market. Thus, Halo Reach brought in the most advanced reward system Halo had seen yet. Inspired by Mr. Hobson's research, you now had an XP bar like Modern Warfare 2 and credits to unlock a vast array of armors. You had the most sophisticated customization yet, meaning the likelihood of your Spartan being unique in any given match was drastically increased. What was most important was the underlying psychological theory. They used contingencies and reinforcement. Reinforcements are the results, typically rewards you get, that being credits in Halo Reach. Contingencies were schedules for when reinforcements are dispatched. There are two types, interval and ratio. Interval was based on times, and ratios were based on reaching a certain number. Halo Reach's main reinforcement, the credits, were on a variable ratio as opposed to a fixed ratio. This means that you received an RNG-based amount of credits for playing a match. The amount you received was variable. Fixed ratio would be if you were given a set amount of XP per match, like in Halo 3. Variable ratio, like Reach, is known to keep people playing more consistently over longer periods of time. And yes, it is the same appeal as gambling. Halo Reach also used fixed interval rewards in the form of challenges, which were rotated out on a consistent basis. In a sense, it covered both worlds. You had consistent long-term play promoted by variable ratio, and then intense, longer, but less common play sessions promoted by the fixed interval system of challenges. Halo Infinite only has challenges, so it's only using fixed interval. Halo Reach's player investment system was designed by none other than old Smithy Boy. That's right, the deleter of Destiny, Luke Smith. For some reason, people hate when I bring up Destiny and Halo in the same context, but it's relevant here. Because what game is better at keeping its player base subservient over extended periods of time, chasing new pieces of armor, than Destiny? I think it's almost certain that 343 are at least copying a bit of Bungie's homework. They have a fair bit in common. Both were built on the same knowledge base, the user research up to Halo Reach conducted by the likes of John Hobson. How does Destiny do it? Bounties. Bounties were the evolution of Reach's challenges. You have the benefits of player set fixed interval reward schedules combined with the diversity from allowing your players to choose bounties from a huge smorgasbord of vendors for different activities to fit their own preferred gameplay style. Destiny 2 at launch actually reverted to a challenge system more like Reach. People hated it, and they went back to the classic bounty system from Destiny 1, which they still have now. Destiny always rewards players for activities, but the vast majority of the XP you can get as a player must be obtained through bounties. Halo Infinite is like a doubling down on this approach, giving you only challenges. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that Infinite has just a little whiff of Destiny. The inspiration extends further. The pre-match intros are clearly Destiny inspired specifically by the tower. Here's the thing about the tower. The tower isn't a social space. There's no chat at all, voice or text. It's there so you can show off, so you can show everyone else what gear you have.
We live in a society with social spaces. You can't even use any slurs against your fellow gamers.
The pre-match intros fill the same role. Show off your gear to everyone in the match. So how could Halo Infinite make a better system? I, a lowly peasant, cannot possibly know better than the wise people at 343. They have the money and the expertise. But at the same time, with all that money, they still gave us Halo 4 and Halo 5. I'm going to give some suggestions anyway, just as a fun little exercise. I think scrap the matches played or matches won challenge. Replace it with a baseline XP reward for completing a match. Don't give us a ton of challenges. That makes them seem less significant and kind of gives you sensory overload. Instead, perhaps give us a large pool of challenges from different vendors, out of which we can select ones we can complete for each day, week, and month. It would make them more unique and more personalized. It would also work much better for the specialist players. They could hoard a bunch of infection related challenges and just sit around all day, a happy camper. But hey, that's just my take. People have been asking me what I think about this. You too can suggest a video topic in the comments or in my Discord. It seems you have a challenge actually. Join the Nerd Army for 10,000 XP by subscribing to Shredded Nerd. That's an easy one, you should go and do that right now. So anyway, thank you for watching and goodbye.